Welcome to sunny side of San Diego.
It's the greatest city in the history of mankind. It's a fact.
Two local San Diegans that look at obstacles as an opportunity for growth.
If you don't fail, you're not even trying.
Michael Carini is the Acrylic Alchemist.
You can call me CEO
of Carini Arts. And Vicente, Vinnie, Enriquez.
No one could do it better.
The team lead of the Enriquez group.
Ride with us.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the sunny side of San Diego with Vinnie and Carini. We got Carini over here and Vinnie over here.
Good morning.
Good morning, guys. So if you're watching us live, we appreciate you watching us. If you're listening to us later on, then glad you're subscribing to us. I appreciate that. And if you are watching us live, feel free to comment and interact. Today, we thought we'd go over the idea of relationships, something that we've talked about on multiple occasions in the highs and lows of our life in relationships. Do you want to take us away, Michael?
Oh, you want the novice, the guy that doesn't understand relationships, to kick this one off?
I always love your perspective, man. I think we've talked about relationships, I think 3 or 4 times, and it's always a different perspective.
Because it's always changing, because it's either on the up because something up, or it's on the down because something didn't work out. It's interesting, and no matter where you are in your life, your relationships are constantly going to be changing with yourself, with other people. And furthering into that point, I think that a lot of times it does more so have to do with your relationship with yourself, your capacity to be a good partner or to be in a healthy, positive relationship with another person begins with yourself. And that's probably one of the main reasons that I've struggled with relationships throughout my life.
I mean, one thing we're talking about, it deals with so much yourself. Self-esteem, I think, is a huge thing, right? With any kind of relationship you're in, right? Because even if you're in a good relationship, and the people that get jealous of maybe their partners, things like that, it comes from a level of self-esteem that you're insecure about something. You're like, oh my gosh, am I not good enough for them? Am I missing something? Are they going to see something in someone else? I mean, you start thinking about the issues that might pop up could stem from yourself, right? I mean, for people that are listening, I think when we started this, I think I was in the single life, and the last time in a relationship, and now engaged. So it's been quite the roller coaster every time we've done these podcasts about kind of different steps in my relationship life and trying to figure out that journey.
It definitely comes down to self-esteem, but self-esteem is an interesting scale too, because you have too much of it, you become arrogant, and then that's a problem for the relationship. And the keys to success in my business life as an artist, the intent, the passion, the things that go into my success in working out as well, those things seem to become obstacles when it comes to relationships. And so that's another thing, is what helps you and makes you better in certain areas of life could impede you and be an obstacle in other, such as relationships.
Well, one thing I know, I mean, we're both pretty hungry people when it comes to our business, right? Our businesses, right? And pushing through. I mean, for me, like I've told this story before. I mean, people ask me, how I was able to do a year in Afghanistan as a private contractor, working basically, in essence, 7 days a week, with 1 day out of the month getting the full day off, right? So it was, I mean, the other weeks I'd get basically a half day. But you look at it and you go, I'm dedicated to what I want to do and what I need to accomplish and just get it done. And that's been one of the things that I've had to realize in a relationship, right? Is it having the dedication, but also dedicating time to the relationship, right? And saying, all right, well, during these times right here, I have to be MIA off of the other stuff I'm doing and give my attention, my focus to my partner, right? And that's been kind of like a balancing act, and learning how can I still have my dedication, have my focus on my business and on my personal side, yet still basically make sure my partner feels valued, loved, and everything like that. So that's been kind of a balancing act of understanding. In my past relationships, I don't think I had that ability. I never really looked at it that way. I looked at it, okay, well, there's what I'm doing, there's my partner, and as things kind of come about and we have time, we'll basically enjoy each other's company and we'll do stuff together, right? But it wasn't like mapping out the time and saying, okay, well, when I'm with you, I have to basically cut everything else out of the way.
That's a huge opportunity for me. Absolutely. And it's one that was a topic of discussion this weekend. And it was brought up by me because I recognized it, because my partner right now is very understanding, very loving. And I'm trying to not take advantage of that because I do get so wrapped up in my work. And my work does affect my mood. My success in my business does affect my mood because all I do, or I shouldn't say all I do, but I'm a full-time artist. And so when things aren't moving, when business isn't going well, when social media platforms are down and I can't market my work to try to bring in that business, it becomes very frustrating. And I'm not somebody that has the capacity to compartmentalize a lot of things and to pretend like things are okay when they're not. If there's an issue, that issue gets to me, and that starts to affect my relationship because it affects my mood. It affects every part of me. It affects the energy that I.
We got a little bit of a pause right there, Michael. Well, I think I'll just kind of jump in here, talking about basically the view, the mood, and everything like that. I mean, I was part of a similar situation. Had a tough situation with work. Had a client that was telling me one thing, he was telling a lender another thing. We were just kind of having a disconnect, and kind of through that situation, I was kind of like a little down. I mean, I knew how to get through it, but I was a little bit down, and kind of put together a game plan, a structure of being okay with that, like working out, actively working out. I know that's something that Michael does, where he'll basically actively work out to kind of get his mind off, or take a jog to get his mind off it, or something like that, so that he's kind of focused on, just that one activity and getting your mind off of that kind of tough time, that struggle, I don't know, just that disappointment, that little lag. So, I mean, it's really understanding, okay, well, how can I basically be okay with telling my partner that I'm in a bad mode? How is it okay for me to get them to understand kind of where I'm coming from? Oh, here we go. There we go. Michael came back. We had a little bit of lag, and I was kind of just going off of, and for people not watching, but only listening, had a little lag. He lost connection off it, but to kind of catch you up, Michael, I was kind of talking about the idea that I think something that we both do similar is I was having a situation where I was in kind of a tough situation because a client told me one thing, he was telling the lender another thing, and I just can't stand it when people lie. I mean, I'm all about being straightforward, being honest, things like that. And so I was in kind of a little bit of rut. And I was trying to tell my partner, hey, just kind of listen to me, just kind of give me focus. And I've kind of understood that I need to get a good workout in when those situations happen. And then basically have the conversation of saying, all right, just hear me out for a second, and just being there.
I would agree with that. And it's been one of the tools that I do use when I am having issues currently. And when I face something like an injury or I'm not able to work out, it definitely, like the stresses of the business, impacts my work. And I think the fact that I've been on my own for so long makes it harder for me to adapt, not only because I'm an intense person, but because I have fallen into the pattern of dealing with things in a certain way. And so when somebody comes along, I say, well, why do I have to adapt? Because this person may come, this person may go. There's no guarantee that they're going to stay. And so it's hard for me to invest that level of commitment when I know that if they leave, I'm going to still have to be committed to myself, and I don't want to have to rebuild and repair all the damage. So you kind of go in gun shy, and that could be a problem with the relationship as well if you're holding back because of that.
I think you mean the way I would kind of like use an analogy is the relationship's like a pool, right? So maybe there's a bunch of pools that you're looking at, right? You're dipping your toe in each pool. Yet once you're ready to actually see if that's the pool that you want, kind of thing, you have to jump in fully to it. I mean, there's no more basically just putting your foot in there. And so you have to almost allow yourself to adapt to the other person and see how the other person adapts to you. And if it becomes a strong relationship, something you got to go forward with. But if you're constantly just, having one foot into that pool and with the other foot outside, you're gonna start thinking, oh man, maybe I should be in the other pool. That other pool might be a little bit warmer. But anytime if a pool is somewhat warm, right? Even not somewhat warm, right? But if you start adapting to it over time, right? Your body starts adapting to the temperature of the pool. But if you have your foot in there, you're constantly thinking, oh man, it's so much better out here, so much better out here, so much better out here. You're never gonna know what it truly feels like to be in that pool. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's a way I kind of probably use a analogy when you're dealing with relationships.
It absolutely does. And I'm always all in with any decision that I make. So if I select a partner, which I have, I am committed to that person. But at the same time, I also think that it's important for people to maintain their autonomy and who they are, for people to have their independence even within a relationship. I think that one of the issues with relationships is people becoming codependent, depending on each other too much, not being able to exist or live or do anything without their partner. And that becomes a big problem. So I think that it's important for both people within a relationship to be able to maintain that autonomy and be able to do their own things, have their own friends, have their own activities, have their time away so that they can appreciate the time together.
So that was actually one thing that when we started our relationship was she was adamant that she has horses and she goes, I'm not giving my horses up for anyone. Right. And I was like, well, what am I so adamant about that I wouldn't give up for anyone? Right. Because I'm not into horses. I'll maybe go once in a while to just kind of see your shows. But I go, well, you know what? I need to basically incorporate my schedule and say, okay, well, I enjoy basketball and I enjoy watching baseball. Right. So I'm going to make sure that I basically get my feeling of watching baseball and I get to enjoy basketball on the weekends. And so that's my routine and she has her routine and everything else in between is us. And so it kind of gives that kind of that balancing act. And the one thing you talked about with friends, having your friends and their friends I think I've told this story before when we talked about relationships in the past, right? I lived in Czech Republic for a year. And I remember my professor, right? He was this big he used to be a big bodybuilder guy. By the time that I saw him, he was a big heavyset guy. And he goes, I used to be a big bodybuilder guy, really strong. The thing is I started to realize that that's not who I was. That's how I just did that because I liked the positive I got off of it. So he stopped working out. And as people know, the more muscle you have, it's easier to turn that to fat if you're eating the same level of food and things like that. So, but he was telling me that in Czech Republic, right, the way that they looked at relationships was a little different. He had a really good friend that had a wife, and he had a wife, right? He said he knew this guy for like 10 years. His wife and her wife never met in that 10-year span, right? And I think for most people in the United States, right, you look at that, you're like, what? I mean, if you have a good friend, a really good friend, and they have a wife, and you have a wife, those people are probably going to meet. You're going to probably try to do a double date. That's just basically custom. But over there, he goes, that's not how it is. It's just we're trained in the U.S. to think that's the way to do it. Yet over here, that's not the way we do it.
I'm a very keep to myself person, even within a relationship. So I'm not the type that has really done the double date thing before or the meeting with groups of friends type of thing. I also always seem to meet people that are somewhat introverted in some capacity like myself that have smaller circles of people. I have very rarely dated somebody that had a large extended family type of thing.
Oh, well, I mean, I have a really big family. So, I mean, she doesn't have that big of a family, but yeah. I mean, so I think it's really, I mean, it's a give and take. I'm not the expert. I mean, Carini's not the expert. I mean, we've learned through our mistakes. We've learned how we've changed. I mean, I know for a fact that I was not in the right mindset in my last relationship. And I listened to a lot of self-help stuff to figure out when the dating scene, because the dating scene could be very tough too. right? The dating scene, you're seeing basically a glimpse of someone is. You're just looking at the cover of a book, and you don't really get to see, okay, what's in the cover? What's the book about? What's the highs? What's the lows? What's the who is this person? And you're trying to figure that out on the first conversation.
And now you're trying to do it amidst a pandemic with a masked cover. So
yeah.
I don't want anything to do with that. So I'm so thankful that I was able to work my way out of that situation and not have to deal with that. But even still going out, there's very few things that we can do, or at least in relation to what we could have done before in terms of activities. So a lot of the time is really just spent at home, which is fine, getting to know each other, but it's a different time than it has ever been in terms of dating and relationships.
You don't have that buffer, right? An event can be in a buffer, right? Because what happens is if you go to, if let's say you take your significant other to a movie, right? It's really not about the conversation between you two. It's about the movie. And now after the movie, if you have dinners like that, you're not talking about basically more so what's going on between you two. You're talking about what you saw in the movie, right? So it's because of a buffer. If you're going into, let's say you go play video games, right? It's not really about basically the time you're having together, but you start building off the memories that you've had when you played video games in the past. And you get that, like, those positive experience kind of brought up into the moment. And so it helps out the kind of the situation. But when you're at home, right, it's just basically you and the other person. You're talking, you're finding out what's good, what's bad, what do we have in common, what do we not have in common, how can we adapt to each other. So if you're able to grow a relationship in this current climate, it's probably going to be a strong relationship. I mean, I would think later on. And the crazy thing, interesting thing is going to be is, did you ever hear that? I think it's, I thought I remember hearing it, that there's a lot more divorces after the holidays. I think I heard that one.
I'm not surprised by that. And I think that what's happening is that a lot of people are just jumping into a relationship. So if somebody finds somebody that they even might get along with right now, they say, okay, well, I don't want to have to deal with this nonsense anymore. Let's just go ahead and move forward with this, especially because we've had the holidays. And the holidays during a pandemic, holidays are oftentimes a lonely time for many people. And during a pandemic, it exacerbates that situation.
If I had to put money on it, I would think that 2022, January 2022, there's going to be a crazy amount of breakups.
I think we have to wait and see how long this carries out, though, because I was having a conversation the other day with the significant other, and we were talking about masks, and she was talking about, oh, I can't wait until X amount of months from now when we don't have to wear masks. And I was thinking, are we ever really going to get there? I would like to think that we would, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was just a mandate that stayed.
I don't know. I think that'd be pretty difficult, because there's going to be some entities that are not going to press that issue, I would think. I mean, there's going to be companies, and it'll slowly kind of die out, I would think. I mean, there'll be people that'll probably keep it going. Yeah, you see it already now. I mean, I don't know where people are listening, but going back to the San Diego, I mean, you'll see some places that they can care less about you wearing a mask. They'll care less about basically the distance stuff. They'll care less about those things. And so as soon as things start slowly freeing up, you're going to see one-offs, another one, and slowly more and more people, more and more companies not really caring about the mask.
Yeah,
I think
tech for sure.
Well, thank you guys for listening. If you have any feedback, if you have a relationship that you're kind of going through some stuff, or have some positive stuff, or you listen to us and you go, these guys are full of shit. These guys don't know what they're talking about. This. Feel free to reach out to us. Reach out, and we would love to kind of hear what you have to say. And please subscribe, please share, and tell your friends. Any last words you want to throw out there?
I definitely don't know what I'm talking about when it comes to relationships, but I'm enjoying the journey of being in one. And I'm curious to see where it goes. Next week, we're supposed to go to the Lions, Tigers, and Bears Sanctuary, and we're going to feed all the animals. So that should be a good time. And I'm curious to see or hear what questions other people have about relationships or relationship topics that they would like us to dive into. So as I move forward with mine, curious to hear about yours.
All right. Thank you guys for watching. Again, please subscribe, please share, and tell your friends. Thank you, everyone.